Git and GitHub is the basic of web development, and every developer and startup is using it to track the history of a project and to manage the versions. In this complete course, I'm going to teach you all the basics of Git and GitHub. What is Git? What is GitHub? How to create branches, how to save commits, how to revert commits. My name is Code with Guillaume. This is a complete free course, so please subscribe to my channel. More courses are coming. I wish you the best and enjoy this course. Welcome everybody on this new course about Git and GitHub. As you can see, this is not a normal course because we don't see my face. I'm not going to record this course with the camera. But that's alright because you can see my screen and I can explain you everything about Git and GitHub. Because here I'm talking about Git and GitHub because both of them are two different products. I know you guys are mixing it all the time, but Git is the technology and GitHub is the platform that is using this technology to save your project. So basically, what is Git and what is GitHub and why we need to use this technology to save our project and to keep track of our history. Basically, Git, it's a version control software that helps you to track changes to files over time, and Git enables you also to recall a specific version of your app. So I got this schema here, which is really simple and really easy to understand. And I got also a Nuxt.js application, which is here. But you gotta know that whatever language, whatever framework you will use, you can use Git to save your project, right? Git is not specific to JavaScript or whatever. You can use Git with every framework that you are using. And you have to know also that Git is installed on your computer, so you will use it locally and then you will push your work to a GitHub repository, but don't worry, we are going to see that together. Okay, so let's assume that from the left to the right, we got the history of a project and we can see that we got different lines which represent actually different version of the application. However, I just said version, but you can see here that in blue, we've got what we call a branch here, which is called main, which is the main branch. And we assume that this is going to be the final version of the project, the branch where we are going to put all the branch down here to get the final product. And we've got another branch here, so another version of the main version, which is called develop, and we've got two other ones which are feature and feature. So basically here we can say that the main branch will be the common version of everybody. Okay, so let's say that we're gonna have a team, and in this team we're gonna have two persons. Okay, let's say that we're gonna have Guillaume and we're gonna have Tyler. All right, this is the team, and Guillaume and Tyler are going to have this application in common. So we got the same version, which is the version 1. Okay, and let's say that Guillaume is going to create a new branch, and this new branch will be actually here a branch called develop. And how can he create a branch? We're going to see that later. But how can he pass from this step to this one? Let's say that here on the line 3, I'm going to remove Nuxt welcome and I'm going to put hello Guillaume. And suddenly I got a different version from Tyler. Tyler and Guillaume started here, but also Guillaume is finally on the develop branch, right? So on the develop branch, Guillaume here started something new. But Tyler is late. Tyler don't get this new version. And Tyler is not able yet to get this version because Guillaume didn't push the branch to GitHub. Later, probably when Guillaume will push the branch, Tyler will be able to get the version of Guillaume where the line 3 is saying hello Guillaume. All right, so we can see here that we've got two history points here that are different from the main version. And this version is called develop because, like its name says, it's a version where we develop a version and later we will merge it into a new version, for instance, the version 0.2. All right, so Guillaume pushes his branch, so Tyler gets this version with hello Guillaume instead of next welcome. So Tyler will be actually here on the bottom. Let's say that Tyler would be in green. There we go. But Taylor is going to make a change from the version of Guillaume. He's going to change hello Guillaume to hello Tyler. So suddenly Tyler is here and Guillaume is still late because Tyler made a change. And this is why Git exists. Git exists to save locally on our computer different versions of the same app. And one day, Guillaume and Tyler will ask to merge the same work. So they go like this, and then suddenly Tyler is here, and Tyler moves, and here Tyler is asking Guillaume to come back to the version, but not really to come back. Here Tyler is asking Guillaume if instead of having hello Guillaume, we could have hello Tyler. And how Tyler can do this? He can do this by creating what we call a pull request. A pull request is actually here to say to the whole team, so Guillaume and Tyler, do you want this change to be applied to what? To the main branch, to the final version, the version where everybody agrees at the end. So let's come back. Tyler is asking Guillaume if he wants the merge, and Guillaume says yes. So finally, we arrive on the same level. All these levels, all these circles that you see are called commits. Those commits are changes saved into a branch forever. And those commits are just history points. And those history points here are actually used to come back in time. Because probably here Tyler wants to come back. He wants to come back to the usual version and is using commits to come back in time. So when Tyler is here, he doesn't got the version of Guillaume here. He doesn't got hello Tyler, remember? He's got hello Guillaume. And probably Tyler wants to come back to the usual version, to the main version. So exactly like copy paste and coming back, Tyler will come back to next welcome, which is here. Git is totally free, and if you want to know more about Git, you can go on git-scm.com and you can see here all the documentation, all the downloads, etc. about Git. So basically, if you click on downloads here, you can download the version that you can use to use Git. Otherwise, if you are using a Mac, you can do like me here, typing sudo dnf install git -all to install Git locally and to start using it. Once it's done, you can type git -v and you can see if you are using Git or not. Now that Git is installed on my computer, I would like to use Git inside my project. Why would I like to start using Git? Because I would like to keep track of the version of my current application. I would like to start here on this first point, on this first commit. So basically, what I'm going to do here inside my project, and I got to be sure that I'm in the right project, I'm going to type git init. And I'm going to do that every time I'm going to start a new code project because I would like to keep track of the record of my project. So I'm going to type enter, and suddenly I can see that all my files are in green. I can see that I got a message using master as the name of the initial branch. Here I can see that I can type a command, and we can see that I initialized my empty Git repository. What is a repository? This is basically the whole folder where I am right now. And if I look at my code editor, we can see that I'm on the branch master. And this is written in here for me inside my terminal. A last thing, if you want to use the same terminal as me, you can go on omyzsh to install here omyzsh. And here we can see that I am on the branch master. Now, on my computer, I got my first version of my Next app that is saved. I am basically here on the first point. I just initiated my first Git repository. In the previous lesson, I have created this Nuxt.js application, and I have in it my Git repository, which is here. So now I keep track of the project. But remember, Tyler here is supposed to have the same version of the project. So how can I share this folder, those files, to Tyler? Well, I could go here and just copy paste the project and sending the project to him through a link. And every time I will make a change, I would have to do the same. It's not convenient at all. It's complicated. What we're going to do instead is to use github.com, the platform where we can save and share projects. Basically, on github.com, I will push this project into what we call a repository. I will invite Tyler, and he will be able to fetch, so to get the project. Every time I will make a change, Tyler will get the latest version when we will pull this latest version. Don't worry, I'm going to explain to you everything in the next lessons, but here what I would like you to do is to create an account on github.com because it's free. And once you have created this account, we are able to continue the course. Once your account is created, you are supposed to create here a username, and this is how GitHub is looking like. And we've got here this contribution panel, which is very famous, that show these squares with colors that are actually representing the number of commits that I did in the last year. And if I put my mouse, we can see here that I'm putting some commits, and we call that contributions. Those green squares are actually commit here that you can see, those circles. They are represented by these green squares. Let's continue. So there is my profile here, and there is here some project that I pinned, and those projects are actually exactly like this folder with the Nuxt application. Those are projects that you can look at if you want to. My most famous project is the Vue Bootstrap boilerplate, and if I click on it here, we can see that we have the code, which is here, and we got tons of buttons options. Basically, here, this code base, and there is a README here, which gives an explanation of what this code is doing. Here, basically, this repository is a repository with Vue 2, Vue 3, Bootstrap 5, Vuex, and this is me who wrote this description. Here, I'm explaining to people that this repository is a boilerplate, so a starter with Vue and Bootstrap. And we can see here that I pin this project, so you saw it on my profile. And you can, if you want, fork the project. So we can see here that 36 person forked the project. So basically, let's say that this timeline is here, the timeline of my Vue Bootstrap boilerplate. Here there is 36 person that did this. 36 person created a different version of my application to use it for a project or whatever. So there are 36 person that create actually a develop branch or whatever that made a different version of my usual boilerplate. And we can see here that I didn't touch some parts of the application since 5 years ago, and some others since 2 years ago, etc., etc. And we can see here that there are releases that I created myself. The last release was in March 16, 2022. And if we go down, there was one in June 2021, etc., etc. So Git helped me to keep track of all the version, and GitHub is basically recording and showing this to everybody. We can see here also that during the project, here I created actually 115 commits. So you can come back to the real beginning of the application. And this is the history of all the project since the beginning, right? So if you want, you can copy paste the project, you can fork it, and you can also give a star. Please give a star if you pass in here, that would be very nice. We can see here that 100% put a star on this template. And if I want, I can just fetch this template. But we are going to come back on this later. Finally, there are some options here, and we can see that we got the pull request. So anybody can be able to fork the project, change and then send a pull request. You can create issues, there are actions, projects, and all other things. But I'm not the only one on GitHub. And if I want to look for a project, I can go here on the top and type, for instance, Vue.js. And we can see here that I arrive on a list of other projects. And for instance, we've got the Vue.js project, which is here. Vue.js is a very known framework, and we can basically fork it, use it, and as you can see, Vue.js got way more success than my repository. Back on my profile, I have a lot of different repositories, and all those repositories are basically projects that I launch, so every time it's a different project, exactly like this one, with its own version, its own branches. Repositories can be public or private. So basically, some of the projects that we got here, you are unable to see them because I put them in private. And what we're gonna do here is to create our first repository where we are going to save this project, the project that we've got here. So how can I save this Nuxt app to my GitHub profile on my GitHub account? Let's see that in the next lesson. Right now, I'm on my GitHub profile, and I would like to create a new repository. So I can go here on the top, I can click on Create New, and I can click on New Repository. So let's go, we're gonna save this project, Nuxt app, from actually our local machine to this repository online. So I'm going to type Nuxt app, and I'm going to call it GitHub, for instance. I can add a description, a repository for my GitHub course, and I can put it to public, and I can click down here on Create Repository. So here it's going to create the repository, and suddenly I arrive on this page, and we can see here on the top that I'm on my repository. And this repository is actually empty, and I got a lot of options. And here we can see that I can, if I want, set up here with the command git the project. So what are we going to do in here? A repository, it's basically the place where we are going to keep track of the project. So it's going to basically take here the branch master that is locally on your computer and put it in here. And later, when we're going to see the branches, when we're going to switch branches, create branches, we are going to basically push the branches, and here we will be able to retrieve the branches. So if I delete the project locally, I will still be able to fetch the project from GitHub. But you got to understand that there's a difference between the track record of your commits on GitHub and your local branch. Basically, if Tyler is going to change something into my Nuxt app and he pushes his changes to his branch, what I need to do, me locally, is to pull the changes. I'm going to show you later how to pull the changes from your repository. But at first, what we need to do is to basically init the project. So if I'm telling you this, it's because I would like you to understand that there's a difference between what we call here the local changes and basically the origin, the remote origin. The remote origin, this is what is on GitHub. The local changes are here. So every time what you gotta do, really often to be honest, is to fetch the changes of the project, because probably Tyler would have made changes that you would like to have on your project. Okay, so we already typed git init. So what we're gonna do here is to push the changes from this repository to here. So what I need to do is to type git, and remember we installed git before, add, and I'm going to put a point, and I'm going to type enter. What I just did here is that I initiated what we call a commit, and we can see here that something changed. I got an A here. So here I'm preparing through a commit here on my history, on my local branch master, I'm preparing to push all of this somewhere. And what we need to do every time we push a changes is to give actually a name to the change, because we would like to be able to get back. And of course we need a name to understand where we were. So I'm going to type git commit, and here I got to put a dash m, and I need to put a message. Let's say that it's going to be first commit. And later we're going to see that this message is really important, because this is going to be what you write, and this is going to be what other developers are going to read. So here it's supposed to be very clear, actually. It's supposed to use conventions. So I'm going to type enter, and what we see suddenly is that we've got all those lines that appear. We've got actually create mode with git init, git ignore, readme, app.view, etc., etc. And if we read clearly, all of this is representing the project. So we are ready to push actually here from master root commit, and we've got here an ID to identify the commit. We are going to push 9 files that have been changed, and in lines it's basically 5,000 lines. Okay, then here we can see that we've got a git branch main. So basically by the past we used to call the main branch the master. Now we call it main. So here we rename the branch to main. This is a convention. So I'm typing git branch dash m, which is capital, and main, and I'm going to type enter. And suddenly we can see here that I'm on main. Master didn't disappear, but main is now the main branch. So we are going to start from main. Then there is a huge here line called git remote at origin. And I gotta stop for some seconds on that to explain to you what we are going to do here. What we do here is we set up the target where we are going to send our project. So previously we saved all the files, and we said that in this commit there will be all these files, and now we are linking the local project main to this address, and you understood that this address .git here is the repository here. So we are creating what we call a remote origin here, and this remote origin will be linked to the project. If we would like later to remove this origin, this will be possible. But here we say, hey, this project, every time we are going to use Git and every time we are going to push, it's going to go here into this repository, right? So this is my repository. So I will not need to create pull requests. I will be able to push directly. Others are unable to push to my repository. For instance, if I try to do that on the repository of somebody else, it will not work. I will not be able to commit directly. I will be obliged to create a pull request. So I got git remote add origin, and here I'm linking this local git branch to the branch that will be here. So I'm going to type enter, and suddenly this is done. Finally, and this is probably the most important, we are going to push everything to this place. And I gotta be clear on that. When you are going to use git push, whatever you are going to use git push, you gotta be safe, because when you're gonna push changes, it's going to overwrite the work of your colleagues or your previous work. You gotta be very safe by using push, git push all the time. You gotta be sure about what you do. Okay, so git push -u, and here I'm putting the origin and I'm calling the branch main. And suddenly, look at this, when I'm going to push everything, what's gonna happen is that we are going to, and it's done actually, it uploaded all the project here. It uploaded all the project on the target. And we can see here, new branch, main, pushed on main. So this main here is this main here, and this main here is actually, and if I update my page, this main here, the project. As you can see here, 4 minutes ago, when I was explaining to you what were commits, and when I saved the commits, 4 minutes ago, I saved this commit, and I just pushed it on the project on a branch called main. And the branch is basically here. So congratulations, you've just created your first GitHub repository, which is linked to your local project on your computer. On Git and GitHub, we use what we call branches. Branches are actually different versions of an application, and every branch can have its own changes, those changes that we call commits. So let's give an example. Let's say that here I'm on my Nuxt application, and here on my terminal, we can see that I'm on the main branch. Here, I would like to create a new version of the application, and this version would be called Little Feature. Why? Because I would like to add a file to this Little Feature branch that we didn't create yet, but we are going to create just after, that is not on the main branch, okay? And probably later I would ask everybody, if actually only me, because I'm only the only person on the team right now, I would create what we call a pull request. I would say, hey, I got a different version from the main version, and I would like probably to merge it to the main branch. So the main branch, it's supposed to be the main project, okay? It's supposed to be the main version of the project, and this is going to be the version that everybody is going to fetch, exactly like we did before. You go to a repository and you pull the project. So basically, how can I create a branch? So I'm going to go here on my application, and the first thing that I'm going to do is actually to create this Little Feature branch. So I'm going to type git checkout -b to say that I want to create a branch. And here I'm going to call it Little Feature. And here you see that I'm using snake case, because here you are not supposed to use spaces. This is a convention. So I'm going to type enter, and suddenly we can see that we switch to a new branch called Little Feature. And this branch is only on my computer right now. It's locally that I got this branch. All right, so what I want to do here, I'm going to create a new file and I'm going to call it touch. And for example, it's going to be example.txt. I'm going to type enter and we can see that I got my txt file. So hello there, this is a text file from here, little feature branch. All right, why do I write this? Because actually, if I switch back to main, this file is going to disappear. So I'm going to switch back to the branch and I'm going to show you. And to switch back to a branch, you can type git checkout and you don't put the -b because you don't want to create any branch. Main. So I want to come back to a branch that exists, all right? So if you want to check if a branch exists or if you want to have a list of all the branches, you can type git branch. So I'm going to type git branch and we can see here that I got 2 branches and actually those 2 branches are little feature and main, and in green we can see that this is the branch where I am right now. Okay, so I'm going to quit, there we go, and I'm going to type git checkout main. I'm going to come back on main, and when I come back on main, we can see that example.txt is still here. But Guillaume, you just told us that example.txt is supposed to be only on little feature. Why do we keep having this one in here? This is because main and little feature got actually the same record, the same commits right now, and we didn't commit this example.txt, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start again, is just to show you that if you don't commit, you are going to keep the same track of the branches you just created. So I'm going to type git checkout, and this time I'm not going to put the -b, of course. I'm going to come here. I'm going to actually touch this example.txt and I'm going to write here, this example.txt is supposed to be only on little branches, little branch. There we go. So now I got this. What I want to do is to commit actually this file. So what I can do here is actually to push it to the branch and save it. Otherwise, if I switch to main, I'm going to have it also. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to type git and I'm going to type add. Add helps you to add everything, every changes that you did until the moment you type git add. So be safe, probably you're going to add other stuff. You got to be careful. And what I want to do is to git add everything. So I'm just going to put a point here and I'm going to add everything. And I type enter. There we go. This is the first step. The second step is to give a name to this commit. Because remember, commit should have a name for we retrieve what did we do. So I'm going to type git commit -m as a message, and here I'm supposed to put the message. So what I'm going to put here, I can put actually added example.txt. So at this point of the course, I'm obliged to say that be safe, because here what I'm telling you to do, this kind of message is just an example. There are conventions. You gotta be safe of what you write in here, okay? Your team should be able to understand what you did in here in order to come back. Okay, so I'm going to type git commit -m added example.txt. I'm going to type enter. And we can see here that an operation here happened and we changed one file and we inserted one other file. All right, at this step, what I want to do is to push this branch to the repository, because right now we don't get the branch on the repository. So where we are right now, we were on the main branch, we arrived on this little feature, and we just committed here this add example.txt, which is this point in here, not this one, because on main we didn't change anything. We are here right now. But before we commit and push this change to the repository on GitHub, what I want to show you now is that we are currently on little feature. I'm going to switch back to main, and I want you to look here at this example.txt. So I'm going to type git checkout main, and when I type enter, look at this. the file disappeared. Why? Because we came back here at the latest step where we saved main. And in main, we didn't have the changes from little feature because we are at a point where we switch from a branch. So if we come back to little feature, we are supposed to have this example file. So if I git checkout little feature, I have the file again. So now we got two different versions of the app, the little feature one and the main one. Okay, so now what I want to do is to come back on my Git repository and to look how branches are working. Okay, so now I'm back on my repository. And if I want to look all the branches that exist on the repository on GitHub, I have to click here and I can see that I got branches. And for now, I just got main as a branch. So what I want to do is actually to push this branch to the project. So now I'm going to push the branch. However, most of the time you have to create a pull request. We're going to see that just after. So I'm going to type git push, and I'm going to type enter. And here we can see that we've got an error. And this error is telling us that the branch, little feature, doesn't exist actually on the repository. And it's true, we can't see it in here on the branches. So what I'm going to do, I'm going just to type here git push set upstream origin little feature, which says that actually I want to create the upstream here and with the origin little feature. So I'm going to type enter, and here we can see that we are pushing to where? To https github.com/my name and the repository. And now if I come back to here, I can see that in real time, we can see that we've got little feature at recent pushes 3 seconds ago. And if I click in here, so we don't see the branch, but if I reload, we are supposed to see the little feature branch that we've got down here. So we succeed to create our first branch. Basically, you can have as much branch as you want. You just got to be safe, because sometimes when you got too many branches, you got a lot of difference between versions. What I recommend you to do is to often create pull requests in order to merge all the branches to the main project. To finish, here's an example. Let's say that little feature would be late and that after 2 other commits, so somebody would push 2 different versions on main, we can see here that we've got a big feature branch with 3 different changes down here. So it can definitely happen, but it would mean that if little feature want to grab the project at that point, this branch would actually encounter what we call conflicts. So we're going to see that together later. Now we are going to see how we can merge little feature into the main branch. In the previous course, we created a new branch called little feature, and this branch has a specification. It has a file that another branch, the main branch, don't get. So what we would like to do now is to create a pull request, and in this short course, I'm going to explain to you what is a pull request, how to create one, and all the options around. Okay, I'm back on the repository. So here, when I click here, I can see all the branches that I got. I got the main branch, I got the little feature branch. Of course, I can also click here on branches to look at the status of the different branch that we've got. Right now, I'm the only person on the repository. So I got only those 2 branches here. And we can see that we have the default branch, which is the main branch. And we can see that I'm the last person who updated the main branch. Then I got the little feature branch. And if I come back to the repository here, I mean on the main page, we can see that actually the repo that I got here is the main repo. So we can decide which branch is actually the main branch. The convention is that the main branch is the branch called main. Okay, so now that I'm here, I can see here on the top that I got tabs, and I got a tab called pull request. So what I can do is to click here on pull request, and suddenly I arrive on this screen where I can search for pull request, or if I want, I can create here a new pull request. So here we've got a definition. Pull requests help you collaborate on code with other people. As pull requests are created, they will appear here in a searchable and filterable list. So there's a whole guide on pull requests that you can follow if you want to. But me, I'm going to click here on create a new pull request. And when I arrive here, I can see that I have an option. I can compare branches. So remember, here we got two branches. And of course, here as an option, so I'm going to zoom a little bit, I can compare one branch to another. So we can see that the base branch is the main branch, okay? And the one I want to compare it to is more little feature. So when I click on little feature, this is what happens. What happens is that I have here one commit, and here we can see that this is the commit of January 14. And if I go down, I can even see which file has changed. And we can see here that we've got this green square, which shows that there is only one line that changed. And on example.txt, it's line 1 called this example text is supposed blah, blah, blah. And what is this pull request going to be? It's going to be a proposal to merge little feature into main. And actually, it's going to be a proposal to add this example.txt file to main. Because right now, main doesn't get this change that I got here. So I'm going to click here on create pull request. And I arrive on this complete form. And this is where most of the time developers are working to give more information about the changes. So remember, Git is made to save different versions of your application, but GitHub is also here to help you to track the history of all the changes. So when you create a pull request, it's going to be on a status open. So until the moment we are going to merge the pull request, the changes are going to stay on little feature. But after that, when we're gonna merge to main, main is going to change. So there will be a new history point. And this pull request is going to be closed or archived, okay? So it's really important to fulfill all the information here to keep track of what you did. Because if there's a bug, probably you want to come back and to look at what you did exactly here. And in order to do so, we need to put as much information as we can. So when we get more information, we are able to debug easily. So here I can add a title, and here the title that I got basically is the title of the commit, okay? So most of the time I'm going to give you some best practice in here. We need to prefix the title. That's what I'm doing. So let me give you some example. The first example is to say, hey, here I'm adding a feature. So basically you can type feature add example.txt. Okay. So here we can see that this is a pull request that is adding a feature. Otherwise, if it's about a fix, you would add fix like this. And if you prefix all the time all your pull requests, it would be easier to find later the pull request that you are looking for. Probably you will look for a fix, probably you will look for a feature depending on what you did. But yes, that's the main point. Otherwise, if it really touched to the heart of the project, you can type core and here add example. Okay, that's a first step. There's a lot of convention. Let me try to find a good guide for you to learn this convention. All right, the first guide is on GitHub and pull request. And here we got pull request documentation. And we can see here that we got several articles. There's an amazing article on FreeCodeCamp by Tano-chan, how to make your first pull request on GitHub. And here you got an entire guide that you can follow if you want to. It's basically the whole course that I'm doing. But here there is an entire guide written in here to help you to understand how you can make your first pull request. Okay, so let's get back. I'm going to type fit and I'm going to type add example.txt. Also here, what I can do at first here is to assign myself to the pull request. So we will know that it's me that is assigned to the pull request. Of course, if there are other members, I can add other members. And if there is a reviewer, I can add a reviewer. So of course here, I cannot add myself as a reviewer because this is my pull request. But this is what we can do. So here, what I can do is to clear the assignees. So I'm going to go here and type clear the assignees. So of course, the reviewers will be the person that will say it's okay to merge. If they have comments, they will be able to put comments on the code, and you will be notified through the notification system of GitHub to tell you, hey, somebody left a message on this to change your code. So you got the system of labels, and here the system of labels, it's a little bit exactly like the prefixing of your pull request. So basically here it's going to be, you got some basic label at first here, but let's say that I'm going to create a new feature label. So I'm going to type here. What I can do is also to change the color, give a description. I'm going to click on save. Project, if you want to, you can put all your pull requests in different projects here. Projects, if you want to put your pull request into a project, it's also possible. Milestone, we're going to see that probably later, and that's it. Now in here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to write actually a short description of my pull request. If you want to, this is another tips, you can use what we call templates for pull requests. And those templates can be automatically added to a repository. I'm going to show you that probably later in the course, but it's always good not to put a simple message like, hello, I added the file example.txt, okay? Here, this is cool. We can read that, but when you got a whole text really long to read, it's boring, right? So basically, what you should do is to do something really short like this. Added example.txt file, for instance. Then what you can add here, fixed the banner, okay? And this is basic, okay? Updated npm package, okay? So here, the example that I'm showing you, it's really for juniors, okay? You can go really deeper into the description of a pull request. The more and more experience you will get, the more and more time you will spend on GitHub, the better the description you want it to be. It has to be really short to explain the problem and what you touched. For instance, like I can say removed component /button.tsx, for instance, okay? So now we've got this kind of description. We're good. So we're gonna start with this pull request, and of course you can edit the pull request as much as you want. And if we go down here, we have the resume we already saw. So I'm gonna click on create pull request, but here we can see that we can also create what we call a draft pull request, which means that you don't want to publish right now the pull request. You want to publish it later. So here I don't care. I'm going to just click on create pull request. And what's happening in here is that I arrive on the screen where the pull request is open. And we can see here on the top that I got one pull request waiting. Let me switch to another repo to show you. Here we are on Vue.js, and we can see here on the top that we've got 251 pull requests waiting for the repository of Vue.js. So if I click here on this pull request, we can see exactly what I explained to you, core, fix, with some other references about projects and problematics linked to Vue.js. And if I click to one pull request, for instance, we can see here that we got exactly what I was talking about. We've got more description about the pull request. We can see here that we've got one commit that we can look, and if we click to it, we can see that we have files that have been changed, etc., etc. So as you can see, there can be a lot of pull requests on a project waiting, and those ones are all open. Here we can see all the closed pull requests of Vue.js. So if I click on close, we can see that there's all these pull requests that have been closed. And here we can see that with this purple icon that this pull request has been merged. But this one has been closed, And if we go down, we got a lot of pull requests. Let's get back to my pull request. Here we've got the conversation, we've got the commit, we've got the checks, and we don't got anything that checks for now. Probably we can add some later. We have the resume of the file change, and there we go. So as we can see here, we've got the history, vertical history of the pull request, and we got here added the feature label 2 minutes ago. We got the full history. So if somebody is going to do something, it's going to appear here. Hello, this is my first pull request. And if I had this comment, okay, we can see here that my comment has been added to the history. Okay, so let's go. Let's now try to click on here and look at it, because here, I got the option to merge the pull request. If you don't get the button, it means that on the repository, you worked on the settings and you said, hey, only reviewers can merge a pull request. We do that in order to prevent people to merge everything to a project. And this is really important, that on every project, you have somebody that takes care about what we merge, okay? This is really important. Okay, so here we can see that we got several options before merging. So let's look at this option together. We can definitely click on merge pull request, and here it's going to trigger the create a merge commit event. So all the commits from the branch will be added to the base branch with a merge commit. So here we are just going to add the example.txt file. Then we've got squash and merge. So the one commit from this branch will be added to the base branch. We're going to see what is squash later and what implies actually the action of squash and merge. And we've got rebase and merge. The one commit for the branch will be rebased and added to the base branch. Rebase here, we're just going to see that after. It means that actually we will get back on the history point of the main branch. Okay, so we rebase, we come back to the base. So I'm going to click on merge pull request, and here I will have actually a title that I can change of the event and the text of the event. And I'm going to click on confirm merge. And what's happening in here, we can see that now I'm on purple, it's written merged, pull request successfully merged and closed. So I get the option to delete the branch if I want to, or I can keep it. So if I come back to the code now and I look at main, suddenly on main, I got here, and we can see that 19 hours ago, I added this example.txt. I have the example.txt file. However, if I come back to my project and I check out main, okay, we can see here that my branch is behind origin main by 2 commits and can be fast forwarded. Use git pull to update your local branch. And we can see here that my main project doesn't get here example.txt, my local project, sorry, from main. So what I need to do is to type git status, for instance. And when I type git status, I can see if I'm late or not. And we can see that my branch is behind origin main. So I'm going to type git pull. And what git pull is doing, git pull is going to pull the changes that are currently merged on the main branch. Currently. So be safe. If you got changes on the main branch and you didn't commit them, you will get what we call conflicts. So here I'm going just to git pull. And what's happening in here? My project has been synchronized. So what you need to do all the time, you need to often pull the changes from a branch if you want to have an updated project. So congratulations, you learn how to create pull requests. Now there are many cases that we need to see together, but you understood how to push your changes from a branch to another one. We saw previously that we can create pull requests to merge branches and just to have one project that includes every changes that we got on different branches. Basically, here I'm going to show you how to merge branches locally, okay? Because you can also merge branches locally. So here I'm going to just git checkout, and I'm going to come back to little feature that we got here. And here little feature is actually probably on the same status from the origin. So origin, it's actually this branch here on my GitHub repository. Okay, so origin slash little feature is up to date. Amazing. Now I'm going to create a new file called test.txt. And I'm going to type here in text.txt, this is a test file. So now I want to keep that on little feature. So what I want to do is to type git add, then git commit -m, and here I'm going to add text.txt, and there we go. So now if I git checkout main, test.txt disappeared, and I can see here that it doesn't exist. So what I would like to do is to merge little feature into main. So I'm going to switch again, okay, to little feature. And now that I'm back on little feature, the question is, can I merge little feature into main? The answer is yes. And there are several ways to do it. I'm going to show you one, the most obvious. I'm going to get back to main, simply. And I know that on little feature, I got this text.txt. So I'm going to come back, there we go. And what I can do here is to type git merged, and I can use little feature, sorry. And if I type enter, here we can see that I got a whole message. And it's written, please enter a commit message to explain why this merge is necessary, especially if it merges an updated upstream into a topic branch. Line starting with hash will be ignored, and an empty message about the commit. Okay, type the keycap I, and then I can write the message that I want. So here I'm letting just this message here, okay? And what I'm gonna do now is to type on escape, then semicolons and WQ, and there we go. We merge actually little feature into main directly, locally on my branch. So what I can do now is actually to create a pull request. However, I'm the owner of the repository. So the main problem when you are the owner of the repository is that you can push directly to production. So let me show you. I don't need here to create a pull request. I'm going to type git add, git commit here, and I'm going to put added text.txt. There we go. And suddenly we see this message, your branch is ahead of origin main by 2 commit, which means that comparing to the main branch, to the origin main, I got 2 commits in advance. So here, when I'm going to type git push, you're going to look at this. It's going to add my file, which is actually test.txt, directly to the production. And when I come back and I update my repository, there we go. We see that there is text.txt, but without creating any pull request. And this kind of action, guys, is really dangerous. If you have this kind of rights, never do this. Never push to the main branch by default. Of course, I'm saying that to people that are not working alone, that are working in a team, people that are solopreneurs, they can push directly to the repository. They are not obliged all the time to have pull request. They can merge locally and then push to the main branch. However, when you work in a team, you shouldn't be able actually to push directly to a repository, because otherwise you're going to push a lot of things without having pull request and code reviews. GitHub has been created to allow code reviews, to allow collaboration between developers, in order to make the best work as possible on a project. At this point, there is a real history on our project, and we can check the logs just by clicking here on the commits, and we can see here that we got a clock. So if I click on the commit, here we can see that I got the whole history of my project. Merge branch little feature, add test.txt, the merge pull request, the example.txt, and the first commit. So what I can do if I want to see this into my terminal is to type git log. And when I type git log, I have exactly the same thing. And I got the ID of every commit that I had. But what if I would like to revert? What if I would like to remove this latest commit here, merge branch little feature? What if I would like to come back to this commit here, to revert? So what I can do is just copy pasting this ID that I get here. And back in here, I can type git checkout exactly to check a branch. And I can copy paste the ID. What is it doing here is to come back actually to this commit here as a branch. So I'm going to type enter, and here I got a huge message. So here we can see that git checkout actually switched to this new branch. And look at this, in this branch, actually I came back to the whole state without the merge, and I can actually make changes from here, and I can even start a new branch coming from here. So let's just type here git switch, and here let's say that I would like to create a branch from this point. So let's call it just alternate little feature in here, and this branch here will start from this commit here, from added.txt. So we will never have here the merge that we had before. So I can type enter, and suddenly I'm on a new branch called alternate little feature. So let's just type here touch, and here I'm going to put alternate.txt, and it's going to create a new file. This is a file for branch here, and actually from branch, alternate little feature. And again, we are going to commit that file to save it. And here it's going to be alternate.txt. There we go. And I'm going to try to push, and remember this branch doesn't exist yet, so it will ask me to push the setup stream that we've got here. And there we go, we pushed the branch remotely on the repository. So if I come back, I go to my repository, I can see that I got here the alternate little feature, and if we look at the branches, we got it in here. What I want you to do now is to go to branches in here, and look at this. This is the most interesting. We see directly that what we've got here is the branch alternate little feature, and we are behind 2 commits, and we are ahead of 1. The commits we are ahead of is basically the commit that we just created, is a file we added. But we are behind 2 commits from main. We are behind 2 commits, which are what? Basically the merged and the commit itself that we didn't push. So, which is interesting to see is that here we can see that little feature is late of 3 commits, and it's not ahead of any commits from 0. But alternate little feature is ahead of 1 and behind 2. So what we need to do basically by doing that is to rebase most of the time. So if I click compare and pull request, and here we are going to create a pull request quickly. So here I'm going to add myself, and here it's going to be an enhancement, and let's just to add a new feature, let's call it like this. And here I'm going to put changes, and I'm going to put added alternate.txt, and I'm going to click on create pull request. Here we can see down here that we don't get any conflict with the base branch. And if I merge the pull request, it's going to come on the top of main. Or what I can do is to say rebase and merged. So rebase and merge, the one coming from this branch will be rebased and added to the base branch. So in this case, I will come back to the step where I had the commit previously, and on this case, I will actually rebase, which means that I will grab the changes, so the forgotten commit, the commit that I skipped, and I will add it on top of what I had. So let's just try to merge from here, create and merge commit. So here, if I put merge pull request and commit, here we will merge, And definitely when we come back here on code, we can see that now we just merge the pull request, and suddenly the number of commits is 7. We pass from 5 to 7 because we added the 2 commits missing. So if we look at it, we've got those alternate.txt 3 minutes ago. And if we go to branches, if we look at it, suddenly it's all right. We got 3 commits behind directly from the main branch, and we have 0 commit ahead. So what I can do now is to come back here, and I can type git rebase main, and I type enter. Here, what we can see is that we successfully rebased and updated actually the refs heads, so the heads we created. So heads, it's basically the branch that we created before with the revert commit on alternate feature. And we rebased on main. Here, in that case, be safe, we don't get any conflict. We are going to look at conflict after in another lesson. We don't get any conflict. Probably when you will rebase, and if you had changes locally that are not on the origin, you will probably have some conflicts, but I'm going to show you how to deal with that later. Okay, so I can just try to git add or git commit -m and say rebase, for instance. And here we see that we've got a problem. We've got a problem because we have our branch, origin alternate little feature, that have diverged. So what we need to do at first is to type git pull. And this is where we've got a problem. We have different versions. So I'm going to show you in the next lesson how to deal with this conflict. Previously, we created a pull request with a branch that was ahead of 1 commit and behind 2 commits from the main branch. So now when we try to actually pull the changes from the branch, we've got a problem. We've got what we call a conflict. A conflict because the remote branch has actually 1 commit ahead that we don't get in here. So we would like to actually deal with that first example, that first conflict. Then after we are going to look at different other conflicts. Okay, so here I can see on the message that we have divergent branches and we need to specify how to reconcile them. So what I have here, I got 3 different commits that I want to push, and I got 1 divergent on the remote branch. So if I type git pull here and -- rebase, and here we can see that it's successfully rebased and we were able to actually pull the project. So what we did in here, we pulled the remote branch alternate little feature, which is actually remotely here. So if I update here, nothing changed, all right? Because here the branch has been updated, but locally it was not updated because I reverted a commit before. So what we have here is the case where we pull and we rebase at the same time. So now, if you want to know if you are up to date, you can type git status, and you can see that your branch is up to date with origin alternate little feature. Let's start again and let's give a better example, a simple example of a conflict and how to resolve this conflict. When you merge 2 branches, Git tries to move the changes from one branch to another. If the same part of the file was changed in both branches, Git may not be able to combine the change automatically. In this case, this is what happened. Git will report a conflict and it will ask you to resolve it manually. So let's try to simulate a conflict. We are going to create 2 branches. So the first one, it's going to be branch 1. Okay, and once I got branch 1, let's say that I would like to add here a title, and this title will be branch 1 content. Okay, I'm going to save this change which we have here. And if I'm on VS Code, here I can type view show source control, and we can see here that we've got some changes, and we can see that on line 4 I added this. Okay, so view source control helps you actually to have a visualizer inside VS Code to look at the changes that happen. Another tool you can use is also GitHub Desktop. GitHub Desktop, it's a software that helps you to deal with GitHub visually. It's exactly the same as what you have inside your terminal. But here we can see that we got a change on the app.view. So here I added my repository. And here on the history, I got the exact same history that I showed you on GitHub, which are actually all the commits of the actual branch. So now I'm going to save git add. There we go. And I'm going to commit here, change on branch 1. There we go. And now what I want to do is to switch on a new branch. And this new branch is going to be branch 2. And now that I am on branch 2, I would like to change this content, which we have up here. So I would put branch 2 content. There we go. Now let's get back to branch 1. And when I come back to branch 1 here, it says that I have some local changes that I got a commit. So again, I can type git add and I can type git commit here, change on branch 2, and there we go. So now I can switch git checkout branch 1. And when I come back, we can see that we got a different, actually a different title. So if I type git switch branch 2, we can see that I got this content. And if I type git switch branch 1, I got this content. On branch 1, I'm going to try to merge branch 2. So I'm going to type git merge, and here I can type branch 2. If you don't find actually the name of your branch, you can use tab. So you type the first letter, and then you use tab, and now I know it's branch 2. So what's going to happen in here, when I'm going to type enter, is that I'm going to have what we call a conflict. Because suddenly, I can see that on branch 1 and branch 2, I got two different titles. And those two different titles here, I have to resolve them. I have to work on what is the version I want to take. And inside VS Code, I can do it. I can use the resolve in merge editor. Inside GitHub Desktop, here I got an alert. And this alert tells me that I can open Visual Studio Code, or I can click here and use directly the branch 1 or branch 2, which is really cool. So if we come back in here, we can see that we've got this special here arrows with head, with the current change, so the branch on merge 1, and the incoming change, the merge on the branch 2 that we are trying to merge right now into the branch 1. So what we can do here is just to use the resolve in merge editor, which is very useful. I can also use VS Code, or I can do it directly inside the terminal in here. So let's just give the example of the merge editor. If I can click here, so I'm going to remove this, I can see that I got the change and it's asking me to what to choose. Here in VS Code, here we can see that the conflict has been resolved because I can approve the merge, I can complete the merge, but it's not done yet. So there are several options to do it. Either we click on resolve in merge editor and it's going to open for us here the merge editor, and we can click on complete merge, which will actually change everything on branch 1 with what we've got on branch 2. And by doing this on VS Code, we've got a confirmation. So here I'm going to click on abort merge. I'm going to abort the merge and I'm going to come back to resimulate the change. So here we see that it didn't work and I came back to branch 1. So I'm going to type again merge branch 2. Otherwise, what you can do is what I do all the time is using directly here the UI. So here I can say that I would like to accept the incoming change, which is blue, which comes from branch 2. In green, this is what is actually on the actual branch. So I'm going to click here on accept incoming change, and suddenly I merged branch 2. And now if we come back here, it's exactly the same. So I'm going to abort again the merge. I'm going to start again. Otherwise, what you can do is here in GitHub Desktop, use the little arrow here and say, hey, I want to use the branch 1 or the branch 2. So if I click here on branch 1 and I come back, we will see here, after the continue merge, that what's going to happen basically is that it's going to take the content of the branch 1. So I'm going to abort the merge again. So let's say that I really want to have branch 2. Here I can have it there. What I need to do just after that is to either continue to merge, either in command line to add everything and commit. So here I'm going to finish by GitHub Desktop. I'm going to click on here, there we go, successfully merge branch 1 in branch 2. I'm going to come back in here and we can see that VS Code updated branch 1. So what I could do here at that point, you already know, git add, git commit, git push. Let me show it to you directly from GitHub Desktop. Of course, branch 1 doesn't exist from here. So I got actually an invitation to push branch 1 to the repository. Otherwise, I can still open it into Visual Studio Code, show it in Finder, or view on GitHub. If I click on view on GitHub, of course, here I got the repository itself. So I'm going to close this. And what I'm going to do here is to click on Publish Branch, and we can see that it's pushing directly the branch to the repository. So if we go on History, we can see that branch 1 has more history. So we got the changes here, and we got suddenly the merge of the changes. And if I come back here, we can also have the option to create a pull request or preview a pull request. And if I click, of course, on create a pull request, I'm going to have the pull request opened in here. So most of the time when you have conflicts, you can deal with them into the command line inside your editor or inside a tool like GitHub Desktop, which is very useful. You got to be careful because when you merge a branch into another one, probably it will add some element or delete some other, and you don't want to have mixed element. The last thing, if you have bugs between files and you would like to come back to the previous version, one trick, which is really easy to do, is to come back on your GitHub repository and just copy paste the previous file into the current branch, so you are sure that you are getting the file directly from the main branch. Another option is to do what we call cherry pick, which is actually to select the commit that you want into a branch or to not select the commit that you don't want. At this step of the course, I would like to talk a bit about GitHub and all the tools that we can use, especially the issue tab that we got in here. Why? Because most of the time, if you want to participate to a project, to an open source project, and if you would like to change something into a project, for instance, the Nuxt framework, your first reflex would be to go here, pull the project, put some code into it, and create a pull request. However, this is a bit an issue, and a lot of people are talking about that right now, because basically, when you arrive on a project like this, you are not supposed to know everything, okay? Except if you deep dive previously into the project and you understand every problem that Nuxt, for instance, is actually facing right now. The first thing to do would be to go, and it's the same for every project, to go to the Issues tab. And the Issues tab, basically, it's the place where we record every problem that we identify on a project. So right now I'm taking a big project, such as Nuxt, because it has, of course, a long track of problem. So basically, here on the Issue tab, we can see subject, exactly like in a forum or in a thread on X, a list of subjects related to a topic. And all those issues here are waiting for like a validation from the Nuxt team to say, hey, this is a real problem. Because this is another issue. The issue is that when you want to work on an open source project, most of the time, or even on your project, your own project, most of the time you will create too fast pull requests and you will think that something is probably an issue, a problem, but it's probably not, which is cool with this issue tab. And it's on the second place of these tabs, which means that it's important to start with issues. Which is cool is that we can keep track of the history of the problems. And here we can see that there's a lot of problems related in here. So basically we are going to come back to our repository and we are going to create a first issue together. Okay, we are back on our little project and I'm going to click on issues. And I'm going to click also up here on new issue. And on this new issue, it's basically exactly like a pull request. We've got, most of the time, convention to describe an issue and to tell everybody, hey, I think this is a problem and I know or I don't know how to resolve this problem. Because you can post an issue even if you don't know how to resolve the problem. The idea is that other people on your team would have probably an ID and an answer to your problem. So let's come back to the project and let's say that, and here I can git switch, okay, to main if I want to. Okay, I'm back on main. Let's say that we would like to delete this alternate.txt. So I could write, for instance, there's a bug in alternate.txt. So what we would like to do at first is to create a clear title, not long, and to describe the problem as much as possible. So here I'm giving a fake example, of course, but you probably in the future would have to talk about a subject which is here. Okay, so here there's a bug in alternate.txt. Okay, the first thing you would like to do is probably to get guidelines on how to create here a template or use an existing template. Here I'm going to create one, for instance. So it's going to be, at first, we would like to give a description and have, after that, probably a solution, okay? If you start on GitHub, start by doing simple thing. If you start on a project that has already template for the issues, please respect that template and fulfill everything you would like to ask. Okay, solution, and let's say that we are going to describe here the previous merge, and here I can call a branch, and let's say that this branch is the branch, I don't remember if it was branch 1, there we go. You see here we got a link to the branch, added alternate.txt, branch 2, there we go. We added the alternate.txt file. However, this file is causing trouble when we want to merge. Let's say that this is an example, okay? So what I want to do at this point is to propose a solution. If you don't get a solution, I don't have a solution. Okay, we can put that. I don't know why this problem happened. So of course you understand that what I'm doing right now is really simple. It's really easy to understand. All developers aren't doing that. Everybody don't get the same way to do things. It's just to give you an example on what you should do if you want to create an issue that is really clear. Because this is the problem, we need to use descriptive and concise title and description that are clearly explaining the problem. So avoid vague or overlay generic title, okay? So here, let's say that I got a solution. Let's delete this file, which is completely crazy as a solution, okay? Right now, I propose to delete the file because it is a useless file. And as you can see here, this issue doesn't provide any code. This issue doesn't actually rely on something that is too violent. I'm proposing to delete a file here. Another thing is that once your issue is done, which is cool, is to assign yourself to the issue. And if there is a label that here appears, like for instance, it's a label about text, or it's a label about bug, here, it's also good to give here a label. Applying labels to categorize issue, it's really good because it helps people to understand. A sign also, it's always good also because we see who can do it and who can improve that. And we can also track the milestone by person later. That's something we can do. Okay, so I'm going to submit the new issue. And suddenly we've got here this discussion that is open. And everybody here can basically participate into the issue. Because when I arrive on the project and I go to the issue up here, I can see that I got one open issue. So what we're going to do now, we are going to create a new pull request where we are going to delete this alternate text. So I'm going to type git checkout b delete alternate.txt. Okay, so here delete alternate txt. There we go, it's going to be better. Snake case. Okay, so in this branch, I'm going to delete the file. I'm going to add git commit m, and I'm going to put delete alternate.txt, and I'm going to push the branch. So here we see, of course, the branch doesn't exist, so I gotta create a setup stream, and there we go. Now I'm coming back to my repository on code, and we can see that I got branch 1 that I could actually merge, but I'm going to come back here. And again, here I'm supposed also to here put all the description related to it. So I'm going to assign myself, I'm going to put a bug. And before I merge the pull request, now I know that this pull request actually got a number. So I'm going to come back and you will understand what I'm talking about. I'm coming back to the issue. And now I'm on the issue, I can say, hey, I actually created a pull request to solve this issue. Okay, so now I'm on the pull request. I'm going to put here a fake description. And of course, you should put your own description, but this is just for the example. I'm going to create the pull request. And once it's done, I got the pull request that is created. And we can see that I got the number 4, hashtag number 4. So now I can come back to the issue and link this number 4 to the issue before merging the pull request. Because I would like the participant to look at the pull request and probably pull it, improve it, make changes, we don't know. So back on the issue, I can go on the bottom and put here hashtag 4, here link my message, which is, hey, I actually created a pull request to solve this issue. So I'm going to click here, there we go. I'm going to comment, and we see here that I got close with comment, which is the option we're going to add just after. And in the history of the issue, we can see that I created the pull request number 4 that I want to actually to merge. So I'm waiting for somebody to look at the message and say it's good, it's not good, etc., etc. However, I'm going to wait a long time because I'm alone on the project. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come back to the pull request and I'm going to merge this pull request, which we have here. And I'm going to confirm the merge and it's going to be merged into main. And we can see that the pull request has been merged. And now what I need to do is to come back here and at the bottom, I would say here, done merged. And I can here click on close with comment. And we can see here that we got different options. The two different options are done, closed, fixed, resolved, or we have close as not planned, won't fix, can't repro, duplicate, stale, which happens often. Those are the issues that I was talking about at the beginning of the course. Those issues are from people who didn't look that much to the project, or probably spam, or probably that issues that are not actual real issues for some reason. So I can click on close with comment. I click on it. And suddenly we can see that here, this issue is closed. The pull request has been merged. And we start again from 0 on issues and pull request. And we can see that we got also the option to reopen the issue. If I come back to issues here, I can see that I got one issue closed, and I click on it, and we've got this issue which is here. We saw that with issues we can keep track of the problems, and we can link those issues to pull requests that we create. Also, the issues page is a page that helps you to see what were the previous issues by the past on the project and what are the current issues. Probably, which is interesting for you to do, is to look at easy issues to solve, propose solution, and wait for a response from somebody. Because the issues are also a space for people to collaborate together and to exchange ideas and solutions to a problem. Let's talk now about GitHub Actions. GitHub Actions is actually automation around your GitHub repository, and everybody can create a GitHub action directly from its repository. So basically, on the website of GitHub and on the features, we can see that when we push on our repository or when we make a change, we can trigger some scripts that will do some operation. We are currently on our repository and we got this tab called Actions. And when I click on it, we can see that we can read, build, test, and deploy your code, make code reviews, branch management, etc., etc. But what are GitHub Actions? If we go on the official website, we can see that we can automate our workflow from idea to production, thankfully to GitHub Actions. Basically, with GitHub Actions, before we push or after we push or when we want, we can trigger scripts that are going to do some operation. And here we got a good example. Here we see that before merging the pull request, some scripts have been triggered. And we can see that we had a success, or it could have failed, for instance. So basically, those scripts can be written here in YAML. And we've got some example down here. We would like to deploy to Azure. We can have a script. We can also, for instance, use coveralls to track the test coverage metrics that we got here. And if you don't know how to write YAML, you can come back here. And we got some scripts that are suggested. So let's go a bit down, and we can see here, for instance, that we got some GitHub action about continuous integration or automation or pages. And here we can see that we got a special script to here package a Next.js website. And we got all other options if we want to set up a GitHub action by ourselves. Let's start with one which is about security. And here we got dependency review. By GitHub Actions, scan pull request on each push for the introduction and or resolution of vulnerable dependencies of the repository. So it's a script actually which is a dependency review. So if I click here on configure, immediately I'm arriving on a YAML editor, and we can see here something interesting. We can see that here I got the name of my repository, and I got this folder called .github workflow, and we got this YAML file. So here, this GitHub folder here is basically on my repository on GitHub, but doesn't appear right now in my project, okay? So here, this will be the repository, the hidden repository, where we will store the action inside the workflow. Okay, so we can see here that this action will scan dependency manifest file that change as part of a pull request, etc., etc. So here we got also other featured action that we could use later, but here we can see that we can change, if we want to, the action called dependency review. So I'm going to click on commit change, and here of course I need to commit to the main branch the head of this GitHub repository. So I'm going to commit directly on the main branch. I could create a new branch also, of course, for that, but I'm going to click on commit changes. And what's going to happen is that suddenly I got this GitHub folder with the dependency review, and we can see that we got the file. So if I come back to the project, we can see suddenly that we got GitHub workflow, And here, if I git switch on main and I git pull, here, what I'm going to have here is the GitHub folder with the file. So I also got the file in here. So now let's try to create a new branch called git checkout, and it's going to be GitHub action test. And there we go. And here I'm going to add a new title, hello GitHub actions. There we go. I'm going to type git add git commit -m, and I'm going to put GitHub actions test, and I'm going to type git push. And of course, I don't have the branch, so I can put that directly in here. I'm going to get back, and what's going to happen here, so I still got this branch one, is that I got the pull request. So I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to say, hey, it's a core, actually, pull request that I want to add. Adding my first GitHub action title. Okay. So we have everything in here. I'm going to assign myself on the label. I'm going to add here a core label. Let's say that it's going to be like this, and we can see that I can add it like this, and there we go. And I'm going to create a pull request. Okay, and if I look down, we can see that one check has been passed. Before here, this branch has no conflict. And if I click on show all the checks, we can see that dependency review checked my pull request. And here we can see that we have a job that has been triggered, a cron, like something that was planned, and it checked for all the dependency. And we can look at it here. We see that everything happened. And we can see that we have cleaning up orphan processes. So basically, the GitHub action has been triggered when I created the pull request in that case. Of course, you can create here your own YAML file that can happen on a certain event. And here we can see that the event is push on. So I'm not going to show you how to write the entire YAML on this course, because this is just like an introduction on what are GitHub actions and how to use them. But we saw that here, before all the check pass, here, before the branch has the option to merge, we've got here this GitHub action that has been triggered. So which is interesting is that we could add a lot of actions in here depending on what I would like to do. So if I click on choosing a new workflow, a new action, here we can see that I got other options that I can add to the project. And let's come back to security, for instance. Here we can see that we can put some check before every time I got a new pull request. For instance, ESLint, a tool for identifying and reporting the problem here, and I can click on configure. It's going to use here all this code. I'm not going to look closely at it, but I'm going just to add here my eslint.yaml, and suddenly there we go. So here I'm going to update because I already had it in cache. I got my eslint.yaml. So before that, I need to merge this branch, and we see that the check is passing again. I'm going to click on merge pull request. I'm going to confirm. So my pull request has been done. I can actually repull. So I got here hello GitHub action. And let's say that I make something like this. And I put git add, git commit. I can now create a pull request. Here we can see that our two checks haven't been completed, and we gotta wait for it. So we got a dependency review, and then we got the ESLint here, scanning. And sometimes those checks can take a long time. And suddenly, look at this. We can see that I got a problem here on my pull request because I don't respect the ESLint rules. GitHub Actions are automated tasks, and these tasks can include building, testing, and deploying your code. You define these tasks using simple configuration file called YAML file, and these GitHub Actions can help you save time and ensure the quality of your software development by automating repetitive and manual processes. In essence, GitHub Actions help you to automate your routine development tasks, making your workflow more efficient and reliable.